is my WWE TLC 2009 pay-per-view review. The pay-per-view just went off, and overall, this is a pretty good pay-per-view outing from WWE. Now, is this a pay-per-view that I would say is worth going out your way and paying the $40 to $45 to order the pay-per-view? Not necessarily, but there are stuff on this pay-per-view that I did enjoy. So overall, I thought this was a good pay-per-view outing from WWE. Definitely a little better than I was expecting for this pay-per-view, and especially the one thing that was a huge shocker with this pay-per-view, kind of good and bad. It was at least good that WWE did something that none of us were expecting, but is it really going to work as him as world champion? Obviously, anyone that's viewing this already knows the results anyway. And the shocker that I'm talking about is Sheamus was actually able to defeat John Cena in the tables match. Sheamus is the new WWE champion. That was probably one of the moments of this year that was the biggest shocker, because I don't think anyone going into this pay-per-view, now some people wanted Sheamus to win, because I knew there was a lot of people that wanted Sheamus to win the title just because they disliked John Cena, and that was really the only way that I saw anyone, going for Sheamus in this match, if you really dislike Cena that bad. And definitely it was a huge shocker, because like I said, I doubt anyone going into this match actually thought Sheamus was going to walk out of this pay-per-view as WWE champion. But now let me get into my review. The opening matchup was Shelton Benjamin versus Christian in a ladders match for the ECW title. This was definitely a good way to start the pay-per-view off with. A good match between these two. Now, I'm one of the people that very rarely want to say anything bad about WWE's PG rating, because there's a lot of people that say the whole PG rating with WWE is the reason why WWE sucks, the reason why WWE is kind of failing with some stuff as far as booking and stuff, and the PG rating is holding them back, which I completely disagree with. But there was one thing in this match that did involve the reason with the whole PG thing that kind of did get on my nerves in this match. Now, during one part in the match, I guess Christian, during the match, he kind of got a little cut on his forehead, was starting to bleed, and then the paramedics at ringside came over there, got him cleared up, and the match was kind of like abruptly stopped for a moment, and it kind of hurt the pacing of the match for a little bit. Now, they did the same thing between John Cena and Randy Orton in their Iron Man match, but during the Iron Man match, it really didn't hurt the whole overall pacing of the match, whereas when they did it in this match, it kind of looked like Shelton and Christian were kind of lost for a little bit, and it kind of looked like this whole part with the paramedic getting involved kind of abruptly stopping the match, kind of hurt the pacing of the match for a little bit, because it looked like they might have had something planned to do outside the ring if that part didn't get involved. But nonetheless, even looking away from that, that's really the only complaint with this match. I was expecting it to be a little better, but it's still a good ladder match. A couple good, one of the memorable spots in this match was Christian was hanging at the top where the titles were, and Shelton Benjamin pretty much dragged him down, called him into a powerbomb position, and that at this time there was a ladder placed in the over in the one turnbuckle corners, and Shelton Benjamin pretty much got Christian. He had him in the powerbomb and running powerbomb into the ladder in the corner of the ring, and that was a good spot right there. And then the end of the match comes when Shelton Benjamin, he was out. There was a ladder placed from the ring apron to the announcer's table, and Shelton Benjamin was going for his German suplex on Christian through the ladder. Christian got out of it, kind of did a little variation of a enziguri kick, or at least some way of the kick to Shelton Benjamin, and then Shelton pretty much landed on the ladder. Then Christian went to the top rope, and the ladder was obviously outside the ring. From the ring apron to the announce table, and Christian hit the splash through the ladder to Shelton Benjamin. Then after that, Christian got into the ring and went up the ladder and grabbed the ECW championship. So Christian does retain the ECW title in a very enjoyable opener. Wasn't the match tonight, because there was one other match that was a little better, but still this was a good way to start the pay-per-view off with. Thought they maybe could have done a few more things in, and maybe a few more spots, but still was an enjoyable match. I would give it 3 1/4 stars, and like I said, good way to start the pay-per-view. Then the next matchup was Drew McIntyre versus John Morrison for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, this match, I was expecting this to maybe be at best a watchable match, but these two put on a very entertaining match. I wasn't expecting anything from this. I was like I said, I was expecting maybe a watchable match at best, because John Morrison, he is a very good in-ring performer, and Drew McIntyre at this point, he really hasn't proved much, but he did work very good against John Morrison. In this match, pretty much most of the match was when Drew McIntyre was fuck. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, then the next matchup was Drew McIntyre versus John Morrison for the Intercontinental Championship. And this match right here really shocked me. I was not expecting anything from this match. At best, I was expecting maybe a watchable match because John Morrison, he is a good talent. He can pretty much put on a good, entertaining match with pretty much any talent in WWE. And like I said, I was expecting this to be watchable, but this definitely passed my expectations. Drew McIntyre, this is the first match I've really seen with him that he actually looked pretty good in the match. Didn't mind his matches that he had with Ron Killings, but at the best, those were kind of like a watchable match. Whereas this was actually a pretty good overall solid match. You saw some good back and forth action between these two. When pretty much during this match, Drew McIntyre was pretty much doing a lot of technical stuff, working on the arm of John Morrison in this match. John Morrison got in some good stuff, and surprisingly during this match, John Morrison does lose the IC Championship to Drew McIntyre. And it kind of hurts John Morrison a little bit because this is his third pay-per-view in a row, losing in a match on pay-per-view. But the way he lost the Intercontinental Championship really didn't hurt him too much because Drew McIntyre did win the title in kind of shady fashions. When the ref wasn't looking, Drew McIntyre poked John Morrison in the eyes. Then after that, he hit the double underhook DDT to John Morrison. A very enjoyable match. Definitely better than I was expecting. 3 stars. And the next matchup was Michelle McCool versus Mickie James for the WWE Women's Championship. And this was, at best, I'll say this was a watchable match. It kind of dragged on a little bit because it kind of was very slow at the beginning, but there were some good parts in the match I did enjoy. So I'll give this match 2 stars, but it kind of dragged on a little bit. And the ending of the match was Layla got up on the ring apron, was pretty much holding Mickie James, and Michelle McCool was going for the big boot on Mickie James, and then accidentally hit Layla. Mickie James got out of the way. Then Mickie James rolled up Michelle McCool for just a 2 count. Then pretty much right after that, Michelle McCool hits the big boot kick to Mickie James to retain the WWE Women's Championship. At best, I'll give it 2 stars. It was at least watchable. Then the next matchup was Sheamus versus John Cena. Like I already said, I already gave the outcome of this match, and this was definitely the shocker of the night because no one was expecting Sheamus to walk out as WWE Champion. It actually wasn't a bad match. For a tables match, it was actually pretty entertaining, I would say. It was kind of like pretty much, 2 power wrestlers against each other, and if you dislike that a lot, you probably aren't going to like the match. But I thought there was some good brawling in this match, and overall it was at least entertaining. And for a tables match, it was pretty good because there's really not that many tables matches I could say that are really enjoyable. I mean, really the only tables match that really comes to mind when I'm like, what a great tables match is from the Royal Rumble 2000 with the Hardys and Dudleys. And other than that, I can't really remember any great tables matches that are. And this was at least an entertaining match, a good brawling, like I said. And the end of the match comes when there's Sheamus and John Cena that are pretty much battling at the top. Sheamus was trying to stop John Cena from superplexing him through a table, and then pretty much a little stalling up there with them two. Then Cena pretty much gets thrown through the table, so Sheamus wins the title that way. So with this, it kind of makes sense a little bit, Sheamus winning a little bit, because he didn't have to, pin John Cena. He didn't have to make him submit, so that was the one thing. It didn't really hurt John Cena too much, since all he did was really push John Cena through a table. And I'm pretty sure this title reign with Sheamus won't last too long. I wouldn't be shocked if tomorrow night he's kind of like the Kane of this decade, where John Cena just defeats him 24 hours later on Monday Night Raw. That would not really shock me if they did something like that. Or if he does keep it to the Rumble, I highly doubt he would keep it past the Rumble. Maybe another match with John Cena and Sheamus then, and I think that match pretty much will be the type of match I think most of us were expecting with this match, where Cena will pretty much dominate the whole match when they have another match against each other, since that will not be, a tables match. You'll actually have to end in, pinfall or submission. And overall, I'll give it 2 3/4 stars because at least enjoyable, and it was definitely a huge shocker that Sheamus won. Not really a fan of him winning because it's way, way too early to give someone like him a world title, especially since Monday Night Raw is, your top show. This guy really hasn't done enough to really, make him, hasn't really done enough to, make him championship worthy, at least at this moment. Yeah, maybe if they would have, had him just lose this match and just look good against John Cena, that might have worked out better than have him, win the championship after he's actually proved something. He really didn't prove much in this match because it was enjoyable. Like I said, it was better than I was expecting, but still, it's way, way too early to give him the title. And I think a lot of people are probably going to dislike him as world champion. I doubt it's going to last that long. Then the next matchup was Batista versus Undertaker in a chairs match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Dislike the whole gimmick of this being a chairs match, but Undertaker and Batista, they did do some good work in this match. It was somewhat enjoyable. Now, the one thing that hurt this match was the ending of this match. This was probably the one thing, but it wasn't really any bad matches on this pay-per-view at all. This was probably like the one thing that maybe this and the women's match should be like something you'll classify as a bad match. The only reason why I classify Batista and Undertaker as a bad match is mainly because of the ending of the match. Now, they did a false ending where Batista won the title because at first when the referee wasn't looking, he low blowed Undertaker, then hit him with a chair, and then 1, 2, 3 wins the title. And then Teddy Long comes out there, restarts the match, says even though chairs are legal in this match, you still can't do a low blow to win the title, which is completely idiotic. You got a match where the gimmick of the match is pretty much chairs are legal, and you pretty much can beat the living shit out of your opponent with a chair, but you can't do a low blow. It just sounds idiotic. It's like, let's do, no holds barred match. You pretty much can throw your opponent around the arena. You can pretty much do anything to him. But if you hit a low blow, you're going to get DQ'd and you're going to lose the match, which was really idiotic, I thought, right there. Then the match restarted very quickly. Undertaker hit the tombstone to Batista, so Undertaker does retain the World Heavyweight Championship. Just the ending of the match, obviously, chairs were legal, and it makes sense a little bit, but it sounds kind of idiotic as well. That you got this gimmick where chairs are legal, but if you hit a low blow on someone, you get DQ'd. It just kind of didn't add up to me. It was really idiotic, and I doubt I'm the only one that's really gonna. I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna be the only one that really disliked that ending. Then the next matchup was Randy Orton versus Kofi Kingston, and this match was definitely a match of the night, really enjoyable, good back and forth action, and Randy Orton did go over in this match. He did win the match, but it made Kofi Kingston look very, very good. What they did near the end of the match, Randy Orton was going for the punt kick onto Kofi Kingston. Kofi got out of the way, kind of blocked it, and Randy Orton hit him in the arm and shoulder, so then it was playing off with his arm and shoulder being injured right there. And then it looked like Kofi was about to pick up the victory. He went for the Trouble in Paradise on Randy Orton. Randy Orton ducked, then hit the RKO, so Randy Orton wins the match. Very enjoyable match. Good stuff in it. 3.5 stars. And it may, even though Kofi did lose this match, I don't think his push is going to be derailed. I think his push will continue because he did look very, very credible in this match and definitely looked like he was about to win this match until like this last split second that Randy hit the RKO on him. So definitely an enjoyable match. And that was the one thing with this pay-per-view that actually, going in this pay-per-view and going out of this pay-per-view, the younger stars are still getting pushed. Drew McIntyre, he won the IC title. Sheamus won the WWE title. And even though Kofi lost this match, he looked very credible in this match. Then the main event was for the Unified Tag Team Championships between DX and Chris Jericho and Big Show in a TLC match. And this was some good stuff in here. It wasn't really anything spectacular. I think for a main event of the pay-per-view, it was kind of a little bit disappointing since you were kind of maybe expecting a lot of good stuff with Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels, which you did get in this match, but I was expecting more, stuff with the ladder being involved with them too, and you really didn't see, many things with the ladder with them. You just saw them pretty much, brawling and doing stuff like that. And then the match ended kind of in a fashion where it kind of ended in a little botch. DX wins the WWE Unified Tag Team Championships, and what I mean, the match ended in a botch. Well, one part in the match before the ending of the match, about probably 5 minutes before the ending, there was a ladder that got in the ring. Big Show and Jericho put DX in there, Shawn Michaels and Triple H in there, and Jericho hit the chair with them in it, and then after that, Big Show pretty much broke the ladder apart, so that ladder was broken apart, and what they did was, at the end of the match, was they did one spot where Jericho was pretty much looking like he was about to go up there, get the tag team championships, but there was a table placed out of the ring, and Jericho definitely looked like he injured himself, or at least is going to be a little banged up after this, because he was really supposed to land through the table, and the table, he missed the table, and pretty much looked like his back almost hit the leg of the table, so I'm pretty sure he's banged up right there. And then after that, with this half a ladder right here, DX, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels get the ladder and hold it and knock Big Show out the ring. Then with this little half a ladder, instead of getting another ladder, Triple H holds this half a ladder up. Shawn Michaels climbs up there, gets the Unified Tag Team Championships with DX winning. Then after that, the pyro goes off for Shawn Michaels and Triple H with DX, and the crowds, celebrate, and it ends that way. And overall, it was a good match, but for a main event on pay-per-view, it was kind of a little disappointing. I would say 3 stars, probably 3 stars the best. I might even be a little generous right there, but it was pretty good, considering, Big Show was in the ladder match. He actually didn't do too bad, and he really didn't do much in the match as far as, getting on the ladder other than 1 or 2 spots, and that was about it. Which most of us were expecting. You did see some good stuff with Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho. I was expecting a little more from them. And Triple H, obviously, knowing his injuries, obviously he didn't do too much with the ladders at all in this match. And overall, I give this pay-per-view about a 7.5 out of 10 because there were some good stuff on it. I would say this kind of it wasn't an average pay-per-view, I wouldn't say. It's kind of teetering, between an average pay-per-view to almost a good pay-per-view. It's kind of in between that line right there. I would say it's about, like I said, I'll give this pay-per-view a 7.5 out of 10 because there were some good stuff on it. I did enjoy the Christian and Shelton match to a good degree, and the Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton match was very good, and it really shocked me how good the John Morrison and Drew McIntyre match was. And even the main event, for some of the stuff we saw on it, was at least entertaining, I would say. So you saw some good stuff on there. Really, you didn't see anything terrible on here. You might have seen, the Undertaker Batista match end in a bad way, but overall what they did in the match wasn't bad, and even the women's match was at least watchable. So like I said, give this pay-per-view a 7.5 out of 10, and that's it for my WWE TLC 2009 pay-per-view review. Peace. WWE did something that none of us were expecting, but is it really going to work as him as world champion? Obviously, anyone that's viewing this already knows the results anyway. And the shocker that I'm talking about is Sheamus was actually able to defeat John Cena in the tables match. Sheamus is the new WWE champion. That was probably one of the moments of this year that was the biggest shocker, because I don't think anyone going into this pay-per-view. Now, some people wanted Sheamus to win, because I knew there was a lot of people that wanted Sheamus to win the title just because they disliked John. Cleared up, and the match was kind of like abruptly stopped for a moment, and it kind of hurt the pacing of the match for a little bit. Now, they did the same thing between John Cena and Randy Orton in their Iron Man match, but during the Iron Man match, it really didn't hurt the whole overall pacing of the match, whereas when they did it in this match, it kind of looked like Shelton and Christian were kind of lost for a little bit, and it kind of looked like this whole part with the paramedic getting involved kind of abruptly stopping the match, kind of hurt the pacing of the match for a little bit, because it looked like they might have had something planned to do outside the ring if that part didn't get involved. But nonetheless, I want to say anything bad about WWE's PG rating, because there's a lot of people that say the whole PG rating with WWE is the reason why WWE sucks, the reason why WWE is kind of failing with some stuff as far as booking and stuff, and the PG rating's holding them back, which I completely disagree with. But there was one thing in this match that did involve the reason with the whole PG thing that kind of did get on my nerves in this match. Now, during one part in the match, I guess Christian, during the match, he kind of got a little cut on his forehead, was starting to bleed, and then the paramedics at ringside came over there, got him clear. This is my WWE TLC 2009 pay-per-view review. The pay-per-view just went off, and overall, this is a pretty good pay-per-view outing from WWE. Now, is this a pay-per-view that I would say is worth going out your way and paying the $40 to $45 to order the pay-per-view? Not necessarily, but there are stuff on this pay-per-view that I did enjoy. So overall, I thought this was a good pay-per-view outing from WWE. Definitely a little better than I was expecting for this pay-per-view, and especially the one thing that was a huge shocker with this pay-per-view, kind of good and bad. It was at least good on Cena, and that was really the only way that I saw anyone, going for Sheamus in this match if you really dislike Cena that bad. And definitely was a huge shocker because, like I said, I doubt anyone going into this match actually thought Sheamus was going to walk out of this pay-per-view as WWE Champion. But now let me get into my review. The opening matchup was Shelton Benjamin versus Christian in a ladders match for the ECW title. This was definitely a good way to start the pay-per-view off with. A good match between these two. Now, I'm one of the people that very rarely